good to be back, like the wise Eminem once said. Man, I can't believe we're back in studio.
Yeah, what's up, man? What's popping?
Not much. Just earlier, me and Mike had some Popeyes. That was nice. I like me some Popeyes. And what other way to celebrate a Tyron Woodley fight than Popeyes?
That's racist.
How you doing, big guy?
Low key, I think it might actually be racist.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it racist, or are we celebrating black culture by having Popeyes?
I mean, look,
or is it just commodification of black culture?
Dude,
maybe a little.
What did I tell you and David about politics on this show?
By the way, we're an MMA podcast. Guys, if you're wondering, no, the leg kick hasn't been replaced by a higher production quality podcast. In fact, this is the leg kick podcast. If you're a fairly new viewer to us, you might not remember that we were in studio before, but we do have a studio. We just took a little break due to coronavirus, but we're back.
Yeah.
We're back, and
we also have a piano.
Better than ever. We got a piano.
No one ever uses it, but
yeah, I don't know why it's there. It's like the Queen of England. Nobody knows why she's there. Nobody knows how she got there, but she's just always kind of been there.
And we got a scene switch now, which we didn't have before, which was kind of cool.
Just more frills and tricks and tips that we're bringing you here at the Leg Kick Podcast. We're going to decorate this place up soon. It's going to look real nice. But in the interim, things coming up. Make sure that you subscribe, like the videos. We got a whole beautiful backlog of content to bring you guys here at the Leg Kick. Go through our old videos. Tell your friends about the Leg Kick if you like it, because we're doing this for the love. So help us do it help me help you.
Yeah, and right now we're gonna talk Woodley versus Colby Covington preview. Sneaky good card. Oh, also by the way, if you saw like this weird like screen on screen thing, I apologize. That's on me. But yeah, sneaky good card. Is
this the best free card in the history of the UFC?
Could be.
Yeah, I would be comfortable declaring it as such, but at the same time, it's like I can't exactly go back through the photographic recesses of my mind to be like, wait, no, in 2012 there was this card in Rio de Janeiro but we'll see. It looks like it's going to deliver.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited for this card. I think. What's the word I'm looking for? I think this card, and definitely, definitely not only the reason why the main event has so much. It's about a couple years too late, but it has so much implications. Not just in. I think the best fights and the best rivalries are always the ones that talk about the duality of life, and not just your regular. Oh, these are two guys who can fight. Let's see it happen. And that's the main event. The co-main is obviously the fun fight that your hardcore's like, and then the third from the top has an interesting implication as well.
Which one's third from the top again?
Chimaev and Mearshart.
Oh yeah, that's a nice little hardcore matchup for those people that have been following MMA throughout the pandemic. Khamzat Chimaev is. We're gonna find out. That's all I can say. We're gonna find out. But yeah, I agree with you on that storylines part. Like there's sometimes where fights kind of. They transcend fighting because of the narratives involved. Mm-hmm. Like that one fight, I'm kicking myself for forgetting the names of the people. But when that, he was one of the best fighters of all time, but black guy, and he fought the German guy in the 30s. And he got a call from the president the day before, and he's like, you have to beat this guy for you're the representative of America. And he fought the Nazi German boxer and just demolished him.
I want to say it was something Longford. I can't. No, I might be wrong actually.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. But I'm gonna.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look that up. But no, I get what I do know the one you're talking about, and yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, look, there's a reason why Rocky IV, as campy as it is, worked, right? So this is one of those ones where. Had it been when Tyron Woodley was champion, could have made a lot of money.
Yeah,
based on this.
Not that I'm mad about Kamaru Usman getting that shot because he deserved it. He was another force of nature moving through that division. But yeah, man, the intrigue in this matchup, and I think it's kind of dampened because, you know, like you said, we're looking at Woodley on a 2-fight skid, and a 2-fight skid where he hasn't looked particularly remarkable. Covington coming off a loss as well, which I don't really know how much done to hurt his stock.
He looked good in that loss.
He looked very good.
I will say.
I think it's the kind of loss that where you can still maintain it. You know, it doesn't hurt your stock to have a fight like that. And people, your Colby Covington fans, you can come up with your excuses of, you know, the fight being stopped too early, and your haters, you know, can relish in the fact that Kamaru Usman broke his jaw. But storylines aside, I'm a little bit disappointed in the timing of the matchup for one reason. I think we've visibly seen signs of Tyron Woodley slowing down. His speed's not what it used to be.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes it seems like he has problems pulling the trigger.
So let me ask you a question. You want to take this preview top to bottom or bottom to top?
I'd say top to bottom because we've already started with Woodley, right?
Okay. Yeah, no.
But yeah, like I was saying, like in the last fight against Gilbert Burns is baiting out Tyron Woodley's right hand and countering him with a low kick to the body. Who in their right mind would have done that to Tyron Woodley 4 years ago?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's playing with fire, right?
Yeah.
But what it seems to me, and this is why, you know, I really like Tyron Woodley. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Colby Covington's style. I'm not a whole big fan of the MAGA thing, obviously. But where I think, for me, this matchup is, it's never a foregone conclusion, but I don't have confidence in Tyron Woodley's chances, is just the simple fact that volume seems to tie him in knots.
Yeah.
Volume and pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think Kamaru Usman kind of, I wouldn't say exposed, because I do think it was more so Tyron Woodley not coming to show up than it was Kamaru Usman's excellent game plan. But, you know, Kamaru Usman did what he had to do. And the book is, if you can overwhelm Tyron Woodley a little bit at this stage of his career, you're going to get the W.
Yeah.
And we saw it with Kamaru Usman. We saw it with Gilbert Burns. And so, you know, the one guy in this division who can do that is Colby Covington.
Is Colby.
Yeah. But we don't know what Colby's chin is like after the jaw injury.
Oh, yeah. Literally. We don't know what it is. Not just metaphorically. His literal chin, which was broken by Kamaru Usman. That's a devastating injury, right?
Yeah. And you know, and also we don't know if Tyron Woodley is going to, you know, look, it could be a motivation thing. It could be that against Kamaru Usman, he didn't come motivated. Against Gilbert Burns, he wasn't motivated. You definitely believe, especially with that press conference, he's coming in motivated.
Oh, motivation's not going to be an issue, and just the animosity. He's going to bring everything that he has. So it kind of the big question looming over this matchup is, can Tyron Woodley still do this at a high level, right? And we're going to find out. I think one thing that makes it a little more interesting for me, because like we said, that volume tends to overwhelm Woodley. Woodley's style, I know I've talked about this in the past, it's based on, it's become more simple as time's gone on. Like if you look at him in his old Strikeforce fights, and I fundamentally believe that's when we had Woodley at his prime, when he was in Strikeforce, throwing up arm bars, and you know he had a large diversity in his attack. He was kicking more, right? I really was a big fan of the Tyron Woodley of old, and I've been watching him before he got to the UFC.
He was a lot more of a volume fighter, but he did tend to gas out towards the ends of rounds. But what he did really well was, he was really good at being a counter fighter. Yes. But he was also really good at, George St. Pierre calls it going third. Drawing out reactions and then capitalizing off of the reactions that you draw. And because he was such an imposing guy.
Offensive counter fighting.
Yeah, he got guys to draw out reactions a lot. And now he's just kind of turned into a defensive counter fighter.
Yeah, lay and pray against the fence. And Rory McDonald kind of exposed a big flaw in that. So I think there's two kinds of... Woodley's style now, it's kind of a two-part proposition. He's got and this is obviously a vast oversimplification because he doesn't just throw the right hand, he's got other strikes. But his big proposition for you is, I have the right hand and I have the blast double. If you come too close,
low kick too. He's got
he's got an excellent low kick, right? I'm oversimplifying it for the sake of an analogy, but if you stand at range with him for too long, he's got the right hand. If you try and pressure him into the fence, he's probably going to out-wrestle you. Now, where Usman, who didn't have the highest volume striking on the feet, was able to negotiate that proposition very well, was he was able to punch into clinches and smother Woodley. And that's something we'd never seen before up to that point. Like, someone out-grappling Woodley it was unheard of. I didn't think that would be the way to beat him. Whereas Burns kind of picked the opposite part of that dilemma, like Rory McDonald did a little bit. Volume, pace, and pressure out at range. Now, where I do think that Woodley might have a chance in this fight is that while Colby is going to be able to put the pressure on him, will Tyron be able to find those small moments in the fight where he can capitalize and throw that right hand? Because Colby will go for the takedowns, but unlike Kamaru, I think he'll spend a little bit more time out at range, because that's when we tend to see his volume, whereas Kamaru's volume tends to come more in the clinch. What do you think about that?
I think while Colby Covington is a lot more defensively responsible than people give him credit for, but he's still not the most defensively responsible guy out there. And what kind of saves him is that he can take a shot, and he's usually getting guys on their back foot, so they're not getting the best. They're not getting their best foot forward, so to speak, pardon the analogy. But, Colby is facing a guy who is excellent on his back foot and is facing a guy who is very accurate with his punches. I think he lands at about a 60% clip for his career. So,
Woodley is?
Yeah. Right. So it's going to be interesting. So I think what I will say is that if we're getting a Tyron Williams that comes correct and a Colby Covington that comes correct, you're going to see Colby Covington not Colby Covington. You're going to see Tyron Woodley have moments.
Sure.
You're going to see him have moments. It's, can he capitalize off those moments? Are we going to see a correct Tyron Woodley? Are we going to see a Colby Covington who comes correct? I still fully expect Colby Covington to win.
I do as well, unfortunately.
Yeah,
especially in these times, I would like to see Woodley get the win.
Yeah, you'd like to see the guy who's kind of supporting Black Lives Matter get the win here, and the guy who's kind of sort of been a borderline to outright racist.
Oh, he's definitely said racist things. Yeah. Now, I've personally talked to him just back and forth a little bit on Instagram, and he seems like I feel like it's a bit of a facade. He's a nice guy, but it doesn't matter.
I've heard that.
At the same time, it doesn't matter if you're putting out these kinds of messages, right? I don't care who you are underneath. I think you have a responsibility to put out truth. At the same time, I get it, it's a shtick, it's marketable, but yeah, if I see what I'd like to see from each guy if they're going to bring forward their best, and this might not seem, a lot of people like to dismiss people as front runners. I'd like to see Woodley not allow Colby to establish his pressure. I'd like to see him finish Colby early and go for broke. Because I think if this is getting into the fourth and fifth round, I don't see Tyron winning regardless. Yeah. So I'd like to see him go back to a little bit of the early UFC Tyron Woodley, where he would use that stutter step. You remember that stutter step out of range?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. He'd fake the kick, kind of do like a shift forward with his rear hand with his shoulders, and then start throwing the left hook, right hook. Yeah. I want to see that. I want to see him get on Colby early, and let's see if Colby can handle the sheer force of nature that's Tyron Woodley's power. Like, when I saw him beat Josh Koscheck in the UFC, that surprised me back in the day, because I'm like, here's Josh Koscheck, this power wrestler with the right hand, and Woodley just proved to be a bigger force of nature, which is honestly how we talked about Josh Koscheck back in the day, right? It was like, if you were going to beat him, it was going to be through the scientific jab of George St. Pierre and just out-thinking him, and then Tyron just blew him out of the water. So, and for Colby, I think the game plan's obvious. You put pressure on, straight hitting, keep moving your head. You use that beautiful high kick setup that he uses, high kick into shooting into the clinch.
Well,
and you mix in the wrestling.
This is the problem. This is why I'm. It's in a way the UFC's kind of forced his hand. I can honestly see that argument, but this is why I hate the fact that Colby had to go this route, because you've talked to Colby. I've talked to Colby. We know this isn't Colby.
No.
For at least. Like, if you had to put me in a corner and say, is this Colby Covington? No.
Even if he is pro-Trump, I think that we're obviously viewing a caricature, right?
Yeah, right. And here's the other thing too, is that if you strip even if this is Colby, if you strip all of this away, what you have is a extremely athletic and wonderful fighter who will be a mainstay in this division.
Yeah.
Right?
And even if you strip away all the rhetoric, as a fan of technique, lately what I've been trying to do is kind of ignore the storylines, ignore the rhetoric, the talking point, because a lot of fighters say some things that I'm like, that's a little bit obnoxious. I don't like that. I just like to look at them as vessels for technique. And I am, in that sense, I'm a big fan of what Colby does. I love pressure fighters. I love what he was able to do to Robbie Lawler, man. That was beautiful. He just doesn't let you get off. He just dominates you in every range and just puts it on you and then breaks you.
Yeah.
What do you think about Tyron Woodley at the the press conference, dude? That was amazing.
No, I loved it. It's a Marshawn Lynch redo where you kind of go, I'm here so I won't get fined, except he kind of put a Black Lives Matter stick to it. And you know what? Honestly, like I've said this about a lot of MMA fans that I've had arguments with MMA fans and go back and forth. And you can, a lot of people will say like, hey, if anything Michael does, he'll argue on Instagram. But the one thing I always say is, you say you don't want politics in sports until when it's a politic idea that you don't agree with.
Exactly.
But then the second you don't agree with it, that's when I want my politics out of sports.
Oh, and you don't want politics out of sports. You want other people's politics out of sports.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I always say about me is, look, I'm not like, will I agree with Drew Brees' stance? Well, his early stance on the flag, no, but at least I can respect the fact that, you know what, you've said your opinion, right?
Sure.
Now I also believe there are consequences to your opinion, and so I debate your opinion. Mm-hmm. So, i.e., a Jonathan Isaac, a Drew Brees. And their opinions in relation to mine, but I don't necessarily say that they aren't entitled to their opinions. And I think that what we're seeing with Tyron Williams from a lot of people and their backlash is you're not allowed to have your opinion.
Yeah.
And that's problematic.
Especially from the crowd that claims to be free speech positive. Because I think at the end of the day, once you get your pulpit, right, and you can say what you want about the message, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. Obviously, you should agree with it because we're in a divisive time and where human rights have never been more important.
Let me get you a little more on the camera here.
What's up, internet?
But go ahead.
Yeah, and I respect that. Like whatever issues you're passionate about, once you have that pulpit, that's what you should do. You advocate for the community you feel passionate about. There's no difference than this and Rose Namajunas advocating for mental health, right? Or Justin Wren advocating for the pygmy people in Africa. It's what they're passionate about, and you now have this microphone. Use it for a better good. I think Tyron Woodley, for whatever reason, rubs people the wrong way. I'm not sure why, but I thought the way he did it was hilarious.
You know why. You know why.
I do know why. There's definitely a little racism there. I completely think, I think people, I think while he can be, point taken, sometimes he can be a bit of a complainer. That's fair. But I think when you have a white fighter who's a bit of a complainer, he's not received the same way. It's not. They got a pass for whatever reason. Not for whatever reason. You know exactly what reason.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know why.
A little bit of underlying racism there, guys. But I thought it was hilarious the way he did it. It's like he started to answer the question. It's like, I'm definitely excited because Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And he just had the sunglasses on, the fake Trump hat that said Black Lives Matter. It was amazing. I thought it was hilarious. And like, even if you don't agree with his views, I think what we need to do a little bit in MMA is just look at people, like just appreciate them for what they are, right? This is Tyron Woodley. This is this fighter. You don't have to make a judgment call on them. You don't have to, this person doesn't align with me. It's like, they're just figures. Like that's how people are viewed in pro wrestling. Like I can appreciate this person for who they are, Yeah.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, and I said this again, I'll say this over and over till cows come home. Whether you disagree or agree with his opinion, I think that as long as he's not saying anything like super over the top, that's super outlandish, it's his opinion. And you can have counters to his opinion. I would have loved to see on the comment section if you didn't agree with his opinion, some sort of like counter, right? I would have loved to see some sort of counter, some sort of discourse, but you didn't get that. You just got a whole lot of keep my politics out of sports, and he's gonna get smacked around, and I can't believe this, and all lives matter, and it's like, okay, what is your counter here? Like, I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, right? For sure. But
I didn't see that. And, it would have been. And so if we're talking about that itself, I think that, like, look, you can't be above free speech and not have a discourse.
Sure, yeah. Your arguments can't be limited to when somebody attacks your opinion. I have my right to freedom of speech. And then when someone says something you don't like, there's no place for that. Like, come on. Come on, really? I know I'm creating a bit of a straw man here, but like, yeah. I mean, first of all, MMA fans don't exactly strike me as the intellectual type for the most part. Sorry, guys. I know you're the ones, listening to us right now, but yeah, there's a big subgroup of Just Bleed MMA fans that, are Zuffa zombies. They'll take Dana White's cookie cutter opinion and just apply that to everything. But yeah, I would like to see Tyron Woodley get the W here.
Me too. It's just, let's be honest. It's not happening.
Probably not. Not. So our co-main is a bit of an interesting one.
It's fun.
Yeah, any fight Nico Price or Cerrone is, I'm interested in. It's weird because for whatever reason, you know how certain fighters, because of the people they've competed with in the division, and I guess their past matchups, you kind of won't consider a matchup between these two. So when this matchup was announced, for me, it kind of came out of left field, but at the same time, it really made sense for me. It's a weird one for Cerrone because it seems like he's taking a step down in name value for his opponent, right? His last fight was Anthony Pettis. He's a household name. He's the Wheaties guy, right? But regardless, as a fan of stylistic questions, I like this fight, and I'm leaning pretty heavily towards Cerrone. What do you think?
Me too. I think that I think the decline in Cerrone is in athleticism. It's not in technique or skill. In fact, I think he's actually gotten as good as we've ever seen him in terms of some of the technical aspects of his game. I do think there's a little bit of a fight to the level of your competition with Cerrone a little bit, in the sense that, like, you tend to see him.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I think he should beat Pettis. I think he won.
I think he should have gotten the nod. Yeah.
Yeah, but there were some instances where it was like, really, you let Pettis do this?
Yeah.
And that's not a diss on Anthony Pettis. It's just that, like, I know what Cerrone can be. We saw motivate Donald Cerrone get about 1 iota away from a title shot.
Sure, and some people think he won the Lawler fight as well.
Yeah,
which was a title shot at 170, if I'm not incorrect.
I think it was an interim, but or like at least a title eliminator. But
honestly, that fight feels like it was like 2 decades ago. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it feels like a different welterweight division nowadays, completely. But yeah, man, I think as far as the Pettis fight, Pettis and Cerrone kind of, generally speaking, have the same weakness. They're both allergic to pressure. Cerrone has had certain... you need to pressure him intelligently, though. Like we saw with Alexander Hernandez, if you just run onto Cerrone, you're going to run onto knees, right? Yeah. You're going to exhaust yourself. The best example, I think, of somebody who pressured Cerrone effectively was Darren Till. Till kept him guessing. He used the threat of strikes rather than just the strikes themselves to pressure him to the fence. And from there, he just hit him with short, little left hands, chopping kicks, and once Cerrone got against...
That was the first time I saw that stepping elbow.
Oh my God, that was gorgeous.
Stepping short elbow.
That was sensuous.
MMA.
Yeah.
Like I see in Muay Thai a lot, and usually a lot of people like to throw it, like a lot of Thai guys like to throw it upwards,
Yeah.
But that was the first time I saw it, like, boom, step in elbow.
And those, by the way, Till and Cerrone are two fighters that bring certain dynamics of Muay Thai to MMA that you don't really see much in MMA generally, that I think, man, that's really cool. Like Cerrone's double switch kick with the front leg. Mm-hmm. Ooh, gorgeous. Him and Condit are the only two people I can think of doing that, and it's super effective.
The problem with that technique, though, is you need a lot of time.
You do. It requires dexterity. It requires you getting a good bounce into your step. Now, as far as pressure, I struggled to see Nico Price crafting like a sophisticated game plan in order, or even just following the kind of game plan to beat Cerrone. Like, his tools in striking just seem so limited to me, and I genuinely don't think he's going to grapple Cerrone, who is one of the most dangerous guards in the division. Like, honestly, genuinely, his guard is super dangerous. Not to dismiss his chances, but I think his main way to victory is just catching Cerrone on one of those straight line blitzes that he does in the early rounds, because he's not going to be able to consistently stick to intelligent forward pressure.
What are Nico Price's tools, right? He's got a great chin.
He's got a cracking right cross.
Yeah, he's got a cracking right cross.
He hits.
He
very
generates a lot of power
from weird positions too. Like, he's got a lot of strange. Do you remember when was it Randy Brown? Do you remember that fight?
Oh yeah. Where he the one I remember is the up kick on James Vick.
Okay, that's an interesting one as well.
But the Randy Brown one though. Was,
so the Randy Brown one, if you don't remember, because I didn't remember it either until I saw it the other day. I'm like, who the heck has knocked out somebody like that before? He had Randy Brown literally in almost like a reverse knee shield. Like, the knee shield from half guard. Yeah, almost in like...
And just the hammer
fist from the bottom knocked Randy Brown unconscious. It's like, who's able to generate the kind of power that you can knock somebody out from bottom half guard knee shield using hammer fist? So it's like, he's one of those fighters, while he might not be the most... His level of technique might not be on par with a lot of people in the division. At the same time, you're in a degree of danger in many weird areas in the fight. It's kind of like the Derek Lewis effect.
Yeah, no, and I can see that freezing Donald Cerrone. I can see it freezing him a little bit. Like, I don't want to go in this spot because I think I'm going to get knocked out.
Right.
But Nico Price is built weird, and I don't want to put on my armchair kinesiology hat and say that but it tends to be positions where his back muscles are engaged.
Right. He's got that wide triangular Dorito-shaped back and those long arms.
Yeah. So anywhere where Price is, what's the word? Engaging his upper back, I think is where he generates that power.
Sure.
You don't, but that's the thing. You generate it with your right cross and your left jab, in Nico Price's case. But you generate it with straight lined attacks. And you generate it from positions where you can't really engage your hips, but you need to generate power somehow. I don't think in a stand-up straight line battle, Nico Price will have any kind of opportunities to do that against Donald Cerrone. The thing that is about Nico Price that does worry me is that Donald Cerrone tends to struggle against length as well. So
that's true. That's fair.
You're Darren Tills.
He's at better when he's at the longer guy, right?
Yeah, right. So you're Darren Tills. Basically, there's a reason why he dropped down to lightweight, and lightweight is where he usually had his kind of best success in recent memory, because he was facing a lot of guys who he was taller than.
At lightweights, or in these matchups we've seen recently against at 170 pounds against people that are actually lightweights, like the Pettis fight.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I tend to agree with that. Reach tends to favor him well. He's best when he's able to be the longer man, when he's able to kick with impunity from the outside and front kick. And I think that's going to be a big path to victory for him. I think in the early rounds, play it cool, right? Don't take any unnecessary risks. He's a slow starter anyways, but one thing I would like to see him do early is get on the legs, get on the front kick to the body, get in your attritive weapons that in the later rounds are really going to sap the power and cardio out of Nico Price, right? They're not going to enable him to...
But they also just dictate pace, right? And I think that's where Donald Cerrone struggles a lot, is that he's not really dictating pace. And that's why he's a slow starter for me. But again... armchair MMA coach here.
Yeah,
right? But I think that it would benefit him actually better to throw, especially since he's got one of the more dangerous guards in MMA. Throw a front kick every once in a while.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Get that distance going. Throw a jab, right? Throw an oblique kick. Dictate that pace and get yourself into it. Like a slow song that picks up at the hook. Just let yourself build in there, but you got to keep people off of you for a little bit.
Yeah,
it would be nice, but again, Cerrone's. I fully expect Cerrone to win this one, but these are things that I would like to see.
What do you think the possibility? Just I was just thinking of past matchups that Cerrone's had and possibilities for this matchup. What do you think about the possibility of Nico Price kind of coming in hot a la Mike Perry and Cerrone just using that level change that he does? He doesn't have the most technical double leg in the world. He kind of bends down at the hips, but what he's good at is timing aggressive opponents on him, and he'll kind of shoot it in the hips and change it to like a knee tap, and it's actually quite effective. What do you think the chances are that we see this turn into a jiu-jitsu match? Because I can see that happening. Aggressive opponent. He has two main weapons for dealing with pressure, right? We've got the step up lead knee, and we've got the level change.
I mean, I think it's a possibility. Like, look, anything's on the table with Donald Cerrone, which is kind of the reason why people love him.
Right.
It's possible. I just think that, like, does he need to? Like, does he need to? Right? And then...
Sure. It's just not that he needs to. It might come out reactively. It just seems like a clear path to victory for me as well in the grappling.
I mean, I will say that's why I think he was trying to do it against Conor McGregor when Conor McGregor came in with that straight left off from hell right off the hop.
Yeah.
And then McGregor hits him with the...
oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. It was a reactive double off of the straight left, and the hip ended up hitting him in the head.
Yeah. And then from there, McGregor hits those shoulder strikes... that everyone remembers that there was a meme of the next day where you saw that one where McGregor's like...
Training the shoulders, yeah.
But, it was like that, and that was the beginning of the end for McGregor. But, I'm not saying that Nico Price is going to, start throwing shoulder strikes.
Apples and
oranges. Don Cerrone probably is just going to keep his distance, throw that lead step in knee.
Yeah.
Not allow Nico Price to generate power where he can. And again, armchair psychologist. He could throw like a right hook and knock down Cerrone the hell out, but that's...
You never know. And here's another dynamic to this, or something that I find interesting, I guess. Have you ever seen more of a step down in notoriety in opponents than going from Conor McGregor to Nico Price? No disrespect to Nico Price, but Conor's like a household name even among non-MMA fans. It's like, how do you drop off that hard as far as name value? Not saying that Cerrone has dropped, to a degree, he has. But every once in a while, he'll come back and surprise you, and I think he might in this case.
I think the reason why is because Don Cerrone is one of these guys, and the UFC loves these guys, are the anytime, any place, anywhere guys.
Yes.
And, I don't like that he fights so often, and Angela Hill's another one where, like, it's like, you see what happens when she gets a full camp. Oh, she nearly takes out a number 8th ranked fighter. But, right, it's not like he hasn't had, like, a good, solid rest in between. Excuse me, but
since the McGregor fight, absolutely. He
faced Pettis, and then he's gone ever since May.
Isn't he on a 4-fight losing streak right now?
Yeah, so he's actually 5. So
is it 5?
So it's
we can pull it up.
So he lost to Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor, and no, it's 4.
It's 4,
and Pettis,
because the Iaquinta fight was before that. Perry Iaquinta, that 2-fight win streak. Yeah. Mike, can you entertain the guests for a second while I go to the washroom really quick?
All right, cool. I was gonna talk about Chimaev Mearshart, but I'll just kind of preamble.
Yeah, just talk about. I'll be there.
But yeah, okay, fine. So next up on the docket we have Mearshart and Gerald Mearshart and Khamzat Chimaev. Now, here's some preamble. Stefano already knows what's going on here. The UFC announced a bit of a weird thing that they want to do with Khamzat Chimaev. Now, Khamzat Chimaev is obviously the talk of the town when it comes to the Fight Island dynamic. And Khamzat is currently 2-0 in the UFC. Has only taken, I believe, 1 significant strike or 2 significant strikes, some insane number like that. Has dominated, and Khamzat wants to do a 2-fight plan. Now, the second of that fight plan is he will be facing Damian Maia at Fight Island sometime in either October or November. It looks like it's going to be November. But the first of that fight will happen this Saturday, where he takes on a very tough American by the name of Gerald Mearshart. Now, Gerald Mearshart is 31-13. But don't let the record fool you. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a guy known for a crazy guillotine, and he's got a great guard. But it does look like he is kind of the guy that they are throwing to the lambs. Now, Dana White has come out and they had a press conference where Dana White said, look, it's not a disrespect thing. It's we're in the middle of a pandemic, and guys who can fight and guys who want to fight will fight. We have to put on cards. And to Dana White's credit, he said this is not a disrespectful thing to him. It's just he wants to fight, and he's willing to fight twice in the space of 2 months. And this is the fight that we have for him. Joe Mearshart, it feels disrespected, obviously, because, it's kind of seeming like they put him as a lamb to the slaughter to then go ahead and fight Damian Maia and build some more hype around this kid and to build a legacy. And who wouldn't be disrespected? And Khamzat has not done much to quell that fire, as he has kind of trash-talked Gerald Mearshart up and down this aisle. Now, it's going to be a tough matchup for Khamzat Chimaev. We don't know what we have in Khamzat Chimaev, but if what I think will happen is that if Khamzat Chimaev comes correct and Gerald Mearshart comes correct, what would happen, I think, is that Khamzat Chimaev is going to get Gerald Mearshart on the ground and will keep him down on the ground. Gerald Mearshart could throw a surprise submission. There's a lot of things that can happen, and Mearshart is a tough guy. But Mearshart is actually known to have terrible, I won't even say terrible, not very good, I would say below league average takedown defense. He for whatever reason, Joe Mearshart is just not good at defending a takedown, which is weird considering the fact that Mearshart is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is a Rufus Sport guy that is known to have some great wrestlers in and around his division, but he just isn't very good at defending a takedown. And Khamzat Chimaev will take Gerald Mearshart down. That's what I think will happen. And it just comes down to when Khamzat Chimaev takes him down, right? What's going to happen? Because for as much as Khamzat Chimaev has garnered this appeal as this incredible ground guy who will take you down and do all kinds of, ground and pound, and he's drawing a lot of Habib comparisons, is Khamzat Chimaev, he's a blue belt. He's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So is he experienced enough? Is he capable enough? And do we really see what happens if he meets resistance on the ground? What is his jiu-jitsu like? What is his grappling like when he meets resistance? And we quite frankly don't know. Right? We don't know what it's like. And that's not, and this is another thing, is that Khamzat Chimaev is running into a guy who is a huge step up in competition already. Never mind Damian Maia, right? But the first guy he's going to have to face, right? The first guy who, he's going to have to go past in his 2-fight plan is a very tough guy who, recently fought a top 15 opponent in Ian Heinich. And, the fight was semi-competitive. So he is facing a guy who's really, really, really good. And, again, like I said, this is a unprecedented, crazy, wild, and interesting story where the UFC has never before done, which is they've booked a guy on a 2-fight plan. They've double booked a guy. They've booked a guy to fight twice already. And the second matchup hasn't even gone yet. They've just literally booked a guy. So, yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to see. It's gonna be interesting to see, and it's gonna be tough to see for Khamzat Chimaev. Never mind Gerald Mearshart, who's coming in very, very motivated. He feels extremely disrespected, and he's gonna give Khamzat Chimaev a war here, an absolute war. I got Khamzat Chimaev winning, in my opinion. But
do you know how I know Mike loves the sound of his own voice? This guy had no problem talking for however long I was going. No, it's because of his skill as a broadcaster as well.
Bless your heart.
He has a buttery, but honestly, if I had that buttery smooth voice, I'd love the sound of my voice too. Jeez,
you kiss up. No, I was just telling people I think Khamzat Chimaev's going to win.
You think so, eh? Yeah. I'm embarrassed to say that I know I've seen Gerald Mearshart fight. He is no Mearshart, let me tell you that. But at the same time, I find it hard to recall one specific instance of. I remember like bits and pieces of his fights. Embarrassed to say I came less prepared than I intended for this one. But from what I've heard is that wrestling gives him problems. So just based on that, you would think, Chimaev Victor. But I think we know so little about Chimaev, and he's just blown out his opponents with, we've seen some effective skill. He's works the Dagestani handcuff well, where you pin the wrist behind the back. If you said all this before, forgive me, but he seems more willing to pursue the submission than other people with a similar style to him, right? As opposed to just not lay and pray, but sit on the legs and
ground and pound.
Yeah, he's willing to chase submissions more, but with grappling, it's weird because it's hard to tell unless they're making obvious mistakes. Sometimes it's hard to tell the skill of a grappler based on unless you see them come up against people of certain skill levels, right? Yeah. It's like invisible jiu-jitsu that Hicks and Gracie was talking about.
See, that was the one thing I said is that look, Khamzat Chimaev will take Gerald Mearshart down. It's going to happen. He will take him down.
I wouldn't even be confident in making that prediction.
Well, here's the thing. Gerald Mearshart's takedown defense is below. I called it below league average. It's not. Is it the worst in the UFC? No. But it's not good enough that I can say, he's going to defend the takedown. What I will say is, on paper, this is the toughest matchup Khamzat Chimaev has ever had.
Absolutely, yeah. And my lack of confidence in predicting this matchup has nothing to do with the fact that I definitely think that Mearshart does have trouble with the take. That's absolutely true, right? That's not in dispute. But I just think that there's so many question marks over Chimaev's head. I actually saw his 2 fights in the UFC and the one before that in Brave FC, where he picked up I think it was a South African gentleman, picked him up over his head, ran him to the other side of the cage and slammed him. It's gorgeous. I need more data. I want that data.
Me too. And that's the whole thing is that this comes to my point is that Gerald Mearshart's pretty good on his back. And I think that's part of the reason why he's never really had to worry, about his ground game from the bottom. And so what happens when Khamzat Chimaev is in his guard, right?
Yeah.
What happens when Khamzat Chimaev's in a knee shield? What happens when Khamzat Chimaev has to fight off a guillotine, right? Khamzat Chimaev is only a blue belt, for the record.
I mean, John Jones was a blue belt when he won, or a white belt when he won. So I would say that's not exactly when you think
an indication, but it is also
when you think
it's a question mark. That's all I'm trying to say.
It's definitely question. There's plenty of. That's the thing. The thing I find interesting about this matchup is how many questions are going to be answered about Chimaev that we don't know. Because people, I just think we should be cautious about making predictions. But I'm super interested to find out. Cardio is another big question. I'm not saying that because we had this conversation earlier off air. I'm not willing to condemn someone for being a fast starter. Neither are you. It's a strength. It's not a weakness. People want to say that, but it's just out of curiosity. If you get out of that first round, if you have that high output in the first round and you make it to the second or third, are you going to be a Johnny Walker or are you going to be a Colby Covington? Because some people can maintain that high output and pace and, over the distance, some can't. And I think front running I'm not going to knock front running. I think it's a legitimate way to fight, right? If your goal is, I'm going to blitz someone and see if I can get them out in the early going, that's fine with me too, right? It's not necessarily a weakness, I don't think. But again, it's just another. There's so many question marks over this matchup, which makes it compelling for me.
The other thing for me too, and I was saying this too, is that look, this is the 2-fight plan, the unprecedented 2-fight plan that people are talking about.
Oh yeah.
If he, how much is Khamzat Chimaev looking past Mearshart to go fight Maia, right? Is Khamzat coming correct? So these are all under the assumptions that Khamzat's going to fight correct, come correct, and Mearshart's going to come correct. But if Khamzat's not coming correct, then throw this out the window. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if Mearshart doesn't come correct or comes in a little overzealous because he's upset, throw this prediction out the window.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there are those questions over like how mad is Mearshart about being overlooked when some fighters don't fight well emotionally.
And let's not get this out of the way. Dana White did overlook him. As much as he says he didn't, he did.
Oh, he did. Yeah, you don't double book someone like this without overlooking them. I think first of all, I'd like to say that the Damian Maia fight, I think that's a bit premature.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
But he wants it. He called him out like 3 times. He wants it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
We're going to find out if this double booking and this calling out Damian Maia is a sign of overconfidence or if it's a sign of an accurate reflection of his abilities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's next?
So I think it was Mackenzie during Ronda Marcos, but I want to just make sure. I guess we have to put the camera onto me. Hi. No.
Mackenzie Dern.
Oh, Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann.
Right. Okay.
By the way, we only have like 10 minutes left.
Okay. No worries. I want to see Johnny Walker get back to Johnny Walker again.
Me too.
I was so excited for him. But man, I find it difficult to get excited for Johnny Walker after he was grinded out by Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov, no disrespect to him, he's a phenomenal karateka, right? I love his work inside the octagon. He's not a grappler. He's not a grinder. And if he can grind you out, I've got some questions.
But here's the thing. Ryan Spann is not Nikita Krylov.
Yeah, no. Well, I agree. Ryan Spann, who, won a very close contention fight against Little Nog, who is 112 years old in MMA years, who won a split decision against Sam Alvey. I had someone try to frame this to me as but he's like an undefeated prospect. Yeah, but if you look at the quality of those wins, I haven't been super impressed. Johnny Walker, I know I kind of hit on this in the last matchup, but I think for me, Johnny Walker is a similar case to Chimaev, where it's despite having so many more fights under his belt, I still there's so many unknowns about the guy. Mm-hmm. How does he hold up over the long rounds when he's not being grinded on? Another one is, does he still have the confidence to throw that crazy, wild, we're throwing spinning S now, in the early going? Is that what makes him dangerous, is just the fact that he's wild?
Well, I think the thing, again, with Nico Price, what does he do? Right?
Walker?
Yeah, Walker. He's a guy who's got incredible offensive potential, long, explosive, throws a whole bunch of, again, spinning S.
And jumping S.
But defensively, he's porous, right? And
on the feet?
Yeah, on the feet.
Can we say that, though? Because I don't know that the Corey Anderson fights, I think that's the kind of counter that many people would have been caught by, right?
Well, sure, but okay.
Was it a? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it a counter to the jab and overhand to the jab? Was it something like that?
It was something like that. But what I'm trying to explain is, okay, so you get hit with the overhand, right? What do you do next? And I didn't see things that inspire confidence to me as a guy who's a seasoned striker.
Okay, so you're talking about the kind of things a seasoned striker would do once they get hurt. The tie-up circle, like Robert Whittaker against Yoel Romero.
Exactly. Do you dictate pace by maybe even throwing it seemed like it was a lot of all offense, no defense. And when he got hurt, he just went to, I'm going to stay out. I'm going to go out on my shield and throw a whole bunch of wild stuff and hope that gets me out of trouble.
Right, yeah.
And that's not what you do. Right.
Yeah. It's while it's a difficult skill to, admittedly it's no small task keeping someone off you when you're hurt, but it's the kind of thing that's kind of a prerequisite if you want to be in the top 5, right? You have to have an answer for that. What a crazy sport that we're in, eh? Where it's look, the standard for application to be talented, when you're barely able to stand because you're so hurt and you've just been hit by a freight train, you've got to be able to coherently function. What are we doing? Let's retire, Mike.
No, it's true. But again, do things that inspire confidence, right? And,
sure.
and I think that defensively, maybe porous was the wrong word. I'm prone to hyperbole.
Defensively, okay, sure. There's some objectionable things about his defense. Though.
Yeah,
cardio.
Yeah, and cardio.
He was sucking wind in the Krylov fight after the first takedown, right?
But I
seemed unable to get off his back, just incapable of it against someone who's not known as a wrestler. It's the same thing with MVP, where it's like, if this is how you're reacting against somebody who's billed as a striker, what's going to happen when you encounter even like an Oosthuizer, who's more of a well-rounder but a solid grappler, or an Anthony Smith, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think it's that's the thing, is that he didn't clean up the wrestling as much as he should have. Because if grapple cardio and striking cardio is different things. And I think that's one of the things that no one, MMA podcast, whether hardcore or casual, talks about, is that grappling cardio, striking cardio, they're two different things.
Sure, yeah.
And against Krylov, I think we saw that his grappling cardio needs some work. He gassed out a little bit, but that doesn't mean there isn't room for improvement. That doesn't mean he hasn't worked on it, and that doesn't mean that when his grappling cardio is up, that he's not a good grappler.
And that's the thing for me. What it's an indication of is just inexperience on the mats, because it's not like you have a separate set of lungs for striking and grappling, but rather let's assume for a second that the problem isn't that he has just generally bad cardio, and it's that he has bad grappling cardio. So what that would entail is that your nervous system is not as familiar with grappling, so you're inefficient, and it takes you a lot more energy to work through those kinds of situations. So given that, if that's the problem, then if anything, I'm a little more concerned.
Yeah,
because to get that efficiency in your nervous system to grapple, where you can do it without gassing yourself out,
you need to grapple more.
That takes a lot more time than to improve your cardio, right?
Yeah. No, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, with that being said, I don't really have. I think Ryan Spann's going to win.
Really, eh?
I think he's going to win. But it's more so because Johnny Walker's defense doesn't instill confidence in me, and. Nogueira, yeah, I get it. Nogueira's like 300 years old and has a walking cane outside the cage. But one thing Nogueira does do is he has a shell when he gets hurt.
He is a very competent boxer, especially as a counter fighter.
Johnny Walker, it's when he gets hurt, it's throw a whole bunch of wild looping shots and hope your way gets out of trouble. At least that's what I saw.
Yeah.
In the Corey Anderson fight. So because of that, I think that Ryan Spann's going to exploit that. I don't think it's going to go to the ground much. And
you don't think so? You don't think that's where Spann would see his most likely path to victory?
I think Spann is very underrated in the ground. No one really talks about that.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
I think that Spann really thinks this is going to be his coming out party. I think he's going to come in there, try and throw a whole bunch of wild stuff, and try to get that W, knock him out.
So what is I know we haven't talked about implications of the matchups, but for this one, I'm just kind of curious. What for you does a win do for each of these guys in this division?
I think a win gets him either, Walker faced Krylov, so. Probably Rakic is probably up there too. So I think this would and Smith has decided he wants to move down.
Smith's going back to 185.
He said he wants to. I don't know if he actually will, but it would be interesting to see, because I think they're in around that Rakic, Smith, Krylov area.
Right.
If the winner and loser is Alvi, name me some names here. Oosthuizer. Actually, no. Here's a good matchup.
I would say Oosthuizer above Krylov, and I'm not looking at the rankings, but just
in your mind, you would think.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think a win helps Spann a lot more than it helps Walker, and a loss hurts Walker a lot more than it hurts Spann, just based on momentum, right? A win would get.
If Walker wins, right? Does he faces Oosthuizer, right? Or
even be a great matchup just as far as
Yuri Prohaska?
Yeah. Do we have any more on the main card to talk about here?
We got two more fights. Let's see here. I'm really not really interested in
the Mackenzie Dern one.
Mackenzie Dern versus. Look, everyone knows I've been really critical of her because of the weight issues.
Oh yeah, and her not just the weight issues, but her arrogance regarding them, right?
Yeah,
so many people would have killed for this opportunity, and you're just like, sucks to suck.
I mean, they're 2 pounds overweight. Look, my position on making the weight.
Yeah,
and I'm as hard as anyone, right? And it's because you want to know why I do it. I have to do it, right? It's my job, and I'm an amateur fighter, and I treat it with pride. It's my job. You said I would have to come in at this weight. I will come in at this weight. And so even 2 pounds, I'm not okay with. But to come in 7 pounds overweight and then be like, and then go straight to the refreshment table and go la di da. No,
That's the thing. 2 pounds, I can give you a few questions, I might be able to provide some excuses.
Side eye a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, okay, maybe you were sick, maybe you had an injury, maybe your body was just you were trying, but your body was just breaking down under that and you just couldn't do it. Like Henan Barao collapsing in the bathtub and hitting his head type deal. Maybe, right? 2 pounds. 7 pounds, there wasn't even an attempt. 7 pounds, you didn't even try if you're 7 pounds over.
Right. Which is why Marvin Vettori's last opponent, Carl Robertson, right? That's why I came on this podcast and said some mean things, right? Sure. Some very mean things. You know what? Half of it I would like to take back. I'll publicly say, right? But there were some things I said that were pretty, because he did twice, right?
Twice. If it's a repeated pattern, yeah. If it's like was it Joe Soto that I'm thinking of that missed weight multiple times? Is that Joe Soto? I don't want to besmirch the good name of Joe. No, it wasn't Joe Soto. It was, man, he just got retired. Never mind. Continue.
I wanted, it wasn't Lamas, right? Oh, it was a 25. I was going to say it wasn't Lamas.
No, it wasn't Lamas. Lamas has consistently made weight, to my knowledge.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is...
He fought DJ, this guy.
Yeah, Borg.
Ray Borg, that's it.
Yeah,
who has a pattern of missing weight, But go on.
No, but my whole point is that that's the reason why I've been critical on Mackenzie Dern, but there's a lot of talent here. She's facing the Canadian Ronda Marcos.
Yeah.
Windsor girl, I believe. Windsor,
yeah.
Yeah, Windsor. So,
Also Iraqi background. Shouts out to Iraqis, man. I got a lot of Iraqi friends. They're a tough people who have been through some ish. But I think the main question in here is, from what I saw from the Ashley Yoder matchup of Mackenzie Dern, for me, that was kind of like a big indication of where she's going to encounter problems. I think the big thing about Mackenzie Dern, while clearly she has world-class jiu-jitsu, she is a world champion. She beat Gabby Garcia, for God's sakes. Gabby Garcia, world champion black belt, who now fights in Risen against Japanese nonas. But
at 200 and something pounds.
Yeah. So for that reason alone, clearly her jiu-jitsu it's elite. It's unquestionable. Now, some other aspects of her game where they're a little bit lacking, a little bit amateurish that I've seen. I would like to see better takedown setups from her. Set up her takedowns better with the striking. And against Ashley, I believe it was Ashley Yoder that I'm thinking of. Yeah, against Ashley.
A good indication of the trouble was Amanda Hebas really gave her a lot of trouble.
What was the result of that fight again?
Amanda Hebas wins by decision.
Decision? Yeah. When Dern's in on a single leg, and I think what I like from her is she has a good jab, right hand into a single leg entry, which is one that I love. But from those wrestling exchanges, she doesn't seem to have the chain wrestling or the diversity of finishes that she needs. It seems like she's used to just getting.
She's holding on for dear life and hoping it works.
Yeah, and guard pulling is not exactly as much of an option in MMA as it is in competitive BJJ. And if you're going to make the transition over, guys, BJJ fighters out there, BJJ competitors, it's not a fight. BJJ competitors, work on your wrestling, man. Stop guard pulling.
I love how you look to the camera and just say...
Oh, no, I'm speaking directly to the children. Children, wrestle. Don't pull guard. Don't do it. There's no purpose. There's no point. It's not going to get you anything. It's a stupid, narrow thing that you use to game a very specific and temporal set of rules. Wrestle. If you want to learn this for self-defense, wrestle. If you want to fight MMA, wrestle. Take people down. Don't sit on your butt. It's useless. Go on, Mike.
Okay. I look, I think, that was Mackenzie Dern's game in when she was a world champion. It was single legs and guard pulls, right? So I think that's where she's comfortable with. I would like to see her add a judo throw, get into the clinch, go single tie plum and an underhook, which is very easy to get.
Yes.
And then, flip somebody over their head. Let's do it. But look, we're talking about she's definitely working in the gym with some of the best, right? She's definitely got a lot of talent. This is the thing. She's got power.
Dern does, she has a surprising amount of power for, she's 125, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for 125.
Sorry, no, 115.
115. She has finishing power. She's legitimate. I remember she hurt ABC, Amanda Bobby Cooper. She hurt her, like, in a way that's rare, where it's like, often in some of the lighter weight classes, both men's and women's, you'll see more finishes as a result of, accumulation of strikes.
One punch.
She cold cocked her.
Yeah, one punch. Dropped.
Yeah,
right.
That's an asset. That's a huge asset.
Yeah, right. I've only really seen Andrade, and to an extent,
Weili Zhang.
Yeah, and I was gonna say to an extent Zhang, but Zhang is more so volume and straight line attacks beating you to the punch, right? But yeah, like she's got power, so it's like there's a lot of there with Dern, and this is a guy who's as critical on Dern as anybody. I don't think you'll find someone who's more critical on Mackenzie Dern than me. So, right, we haven't even talked about the Canadian Marcos.
Yeah, well,
who's very tough.
Very tough. One quick thing I'd like to say about Dern's game, though, one thing that I do like that she does from the single leg, and I think we've seen this in more recent fights. She did it against Hannah Cyphers, actually, which I really like.
Single leg X.
Single leg, yeah, single leg X. It's okay from if you've got a single leg. Two different positions. Single leg as in the single leg takedown, and then you fall to your back and go for the single leg X. That's not guard pulling. Don't get on me for that.
Technically, it is. Technically.
Not in the sense that I'm.
Yeah, no, you're doing it to advanced position and not just kind of
exactly. So I thought that was a good added. Like if you can't out wrestle them, change a wrestling exchange into a grappling exchange. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, as far as Marcos, man, I really struggle to see her hurting Mackenzie Dern. And I struggle to see the ranges in which he's dangerous. I'm willing to call this one for Dern, but let me know what you think.
Well, Marcos is a good grappler in her own right? And
certainly.
And I just think that the technical, her technical striking needs, like, it's hooks and body locks, right? With Ronda Marcos, right? Hooks and body locks. And that's not to disrespect her. She comes to big country and she'll kick my ass. But
yeah, it's a legitimate style of fighting. Right? It absolutely is that grindy up against the cage, right? Just enough striking as you need to get them against the cage and grind.
Yeah, that's what got her the draw against Marina Rodriguez, right? So it's there. It's just.
Here's the thing, though. To an extent, to a lesser degree, I see this matchup as like a Ben Askren, Damian Maia type situation. It's like if that's a legitimate style to beat all kinds of opposition. But what do you do if someone has a jiu-jitsu advantage over you, a substantial jiu-jitsu advantage, and you can't hurt them on the feet?
Yeah.
What then, right?
Well, see, this is the thing is that like she could very well hurt Mackenzie Dern on the feet, right?
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Have we seen?
I'm not confident. Like as much as Mackenzie Dern has power, I don't think Mackenzie Dern's distance management or defensive responsibility is there enough where it's like, oh yeah, she's definitely gonna just keep Ronda Marcos off of her. Like I'm not.
I agree. It's just with both of these women, their striking game seems to function better as an overall MMA game, meaning when they're mixing in grappling, right? The striking is not kind of like a means to an ends. Not even that. That's kind of wrong. Not necessarily that it's a means to the end. It's just that it works better when they're
pairing it.
Yeah, when the threat of the grappling is present. And I feel like whatever.
It's like wine and cheese. Like wine is great, cheese is great, but when
together,
you pair it,
yeah.
This is a guy who doesn't drink, by the way. Saying
we can all appreciate a glass of good wine once in a while. But cheese, cheese is some good-ish. Yeah. So I think it's one of those matchups where if you can impose the grappling, if you're the grappling dominant party here, your striking is also going to be more effective, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but that's honestly all I want to spend time on.
Agreed. What's the last fight? Is it?
There's Holland versus Stuart, which I'm actually semi excited for. I am. I really like this one, but we don't really have much time. I personally am a fan of Kevin Holland ever since Dana White's Contender Series.
I for whatever reason, I'm less familiar with his career, but I do enjoy me a Darren Stewart fight. He had a phenomenal guillotine against Maki Pitolo that was gorgeous, and he
set up
and he beat Tyron Win as well. That was an interesting win. Able to keep him on the outside.
I was a big fan of Tyron Win too with the I Am the Bay series.
I'm still a big fan of him.
Yeah. It's just the problem is you can't be 5'8" and be successful in the middleweight.
5'6".
Oh yeah, even worse. You can't be 5'6" and be successful in the middleweight division. And this is a 5'10" middleweight saying this. You know, like,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
I'm trying to argue with you. I like to be a contrarian, Mike. I really do, but it is a massive disadvantage you're operating under, right?
And here's the thing, like
to be fair, he's done it without getting like, I don't think he's been starched.
No,
he got finished by Stuart, but it's a competitive enough matchup. It's such a disadvantage being that short.
And he does things where he actually kind of makes it his advantage. But the thing about it is you have to get to where you want to get to do it.
Precisely.
Right? And we're talking about the Tryon win in a matchup
an unrelated.
that doesn't
He's just such a fascinating anomaly.
Yeah, no, I and the thing is, I want to see Jeff Munson succeed nowadays. Where like Jeff Munson's undersized for a division from a height perspective. And
my fellow communist Jeff Munson, also a PhD in psychology, by the way.
Yeah, no, smart guy,
super smart.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. I want to see. What's that Nigerian gentleman's name in 205? Named Chole? Whatever.
Oh, the guy who came over from that South African league. You're talking about him, right?
Yeah.
Super short but shredded. Yeah, he fought Ankalaev.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I want to see different iterations at different weight classes succeed. I'm with you, man. I love anomalies. I really do.
But it's just 5'6" at middleweight in this day and age is just a tad.
It's difficult. Yeah. It's an uphill battle, right?
Yeah. Right. So like, you know, like, but again, I want to see like, what's the word? I want to see more Jorge Masvidal succeed. I want to see more Calvin Gastelum succeed.
Wait,
right?
Masvidal's not that undersized.
He's not, but he is undersized for the division. Like,
yeah.
Right. You know,
Frankie Edgars.
I want to see Frankie Edgars. I want to see Calvin Gastelum was one win away from being a champion. So
yeah.
Right. I want to see guys do it. It's just, you know,
as far as to run win too, I don't even think that it's like it's underheighted because I think he's one of there are some people where they are just
once he gets a hold of you, it's game over.
Yeah, and he's a piece of toast. Like he is as tall as he is wide. He's a fire hydrant, right? Mm-hmm. A piece of toast, a tree stump, whatever you want to call him. It's not like a matter of if he could just get down to a smaller weight class because I don't think he can. I think it's just he has this body type now. Work with it, right?
Yeah. No, like I just think I get what you're saying. It's just that like
it's just a disadvantage.
It's not.
I agree. It's not.
If he was 5'8", this isn't a discussion. I just think it's like get better. It's you are 5'6".
Yeah.
You know 5'6". Right, like even 5'8's a little tough, but like 5'6".
Yeah, Woodley at 5'8 at 170 is looked at as like, oh, he's kind of a short gentleman. Yeah. But yeah, middleweight's one of those weight classes where you have gentlemen who are 6'5" fighting at that weight class.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's tough. Like you see the amateur scene nowadays. I was shocked at some of the height.
Oh, speaking of which, yeah, Mike's last opponent, 6'5" guy. Yeah. We always end up tall middleweights. Yeah. Hey, how about Gordon Cunningham? Yeah. Shouts out to Gordon Cunningham, man.
Could be a nice
hilarious
guy, by the way.
Yeah, great dude. Great dude. Yeah. Anything else we got?
No, but yeah, I'm excited for that Darren Stewart.
You know what I'm excited for?
What?
Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather. Jesus, that's one of the matchups where it's like, do I want to watch Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather? I'd rather stick my hand in a blender running at full speed. To be honest with you, I'd rather put my head on top of a dumpster while Mike repeatedly slams the lid on my ear. You know, it's just it's like the Rebecca Black of fight matchups. It's so bad. It's why I can't.
You know
think
what
of anything I'd rather.
You know what our Instagram said? It was like, what was it? September 17th, the day boxing died.
You know what's funny? I've heard people try and make the argument that this is of a net benefit to boxing because it's going to draw in new boxing fans. No, it's not. The people who are going to be attracted to the matchup aren't going to be people who are like,
we're going to watch GGG versus Scott Rolls.
Wow, I love boxing now. This is great. Look at Floyd Mayweather jabbing the crap out of
I will say though, I would love to see what Logan Paul can do in an amateur boxing, like a real amateur boxing setting and a real amateur MMA setting, because this is a guy with a credentialed wrestling experience.
MMA, that's why I'd like to see MMA, sure.
Right? And this is a guy who like does seem to take boxing seriously. It's just
Yeah, probably the best boxer of all time.
Yeah,
I do not want to see this. This is the 3-ring circus, right? This is the bearded lady and the mustache guy lifting barbells in the ladies' bathing suit, and I don't want to see it. Why? This is like laughable. Yeah. Conor McGregor for me versus Floyd Mayweather was laughable. It was laughable for me. I was ready to pull out the 3-ring circus comment. This is like, okay, guys, are we?
I'll be honest with you. The only reason why I watched Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, I always say this, was because my work had it on, and they were paying me extra to be security that day. So
I think that was one of the ones where you kind of had to watch it just because of like. In a way, it was kind of a moment in history, and in a way, it was a good lesson, like James Toney Randy Couture, where it was like, look, the James Toney Randy Couture one was like, you think you can succeed without a rounded skill set in MMA? You're incorrect, sir. It is not going to happen. This is a lesson we learned at UFC 1. Do you remember it? And this one, the Conor McGregor one, was kind of like, well, it was a freak show, and it was obvious to me and you and a lot of martial artists. It was, as an MMA fighter, you are never going to be as good as a specialist in any one skill set. Mm-hmm. Not going to happen. You're not going to be as good a boxer as a professional boxer. Not even close. Not even close. There are amateur boxers who would outbox professional MMA fighters. Yeah. It's different. It's just different. Yeah. So, yeah. But there's no lessons to be learned.
No, it's true. It's just that, like, I just think that Logan Paul, the problem I run into is, like, unlike KSI, for example, like, I just don't see any talent for KSI anywhere, who, by the way, beat Logan Paul in a boxing match.
It is done.
Yeah. It's just that Logan Paul, there is talent there. And, like, you hear people at the Performance Institute when he was grappling Costa and boxing with Costa, that's like, no, this is a guy who's got talent, there. It's not... they were shocked at how good his grappling was, by the way.
Well, he was out-grappled by Paulo Costa. Big surprise, right? Obviously.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time...
They were shocked, right? So it's like...
But you're not going to get him a UFC contract.
No, right? So, but, it's one of those things where it's like, if he really wants to take this seriously, and he goes and faces, like, so-and-so in the amateur ranks in California... I wouldn't be opposed to seeing how well he could do over a period of time.
Right.
It's these matchups that get me upset.
Well, and here's the curse of fame, right? Like, I wouldn't be opposed to, like, you want to fight? Step in line, right? We've all had to do it. We've all had to, pay our dues. We've all, there are professional boxers out there that have been fighting since time immemorial, and MMA fighters as well, in front of empty crowds, on native reserves, in parking lots, just working their way up for little to no money. Look at the system of incentives in front of Logan Paul. If you can, and just looking at it completely rationally, if you said you can do this and make a legitimate shot out of it and work your way up gradually through the rankings, or you can take this freak show matchup and make $400 million. Well,
no, it's true. It's just
I don't blame him for taking it. I blame promoters for putting it on. I blame audiences out there for actually wanting this, because clearly there's a market for it. It's like, really,
not just a market, like a huge market.
Clearly, right?
Yeah, so. No, it's just, that's the thing. It's just like, this is a guy who does have legitimate talent,
Yeah.
It's just, 50-0 is just a little bit of a step up, no?
not just 50-0, but it's like a 50-0, possibly the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Against a YouTuber, like four or five weight classes bigger than him. Like, what are we going to learn, Mike? What's the takeaway after this if Floyd Mayweather beats him? If, let's say, by some miracle, Floyd Mayweather slips on a banana peel and then Logan Paul catches him with a punch on the way down and knocks out Floyd Mayweather, what's the lesson there? Boxing's a joke? Like, it's just...
well, that's a good way to end this preview show.
Yeah. Guys, very, very... Another reminder, like, subscribe. You can find us on all platforms where you find podcasts, from YouTube, Spotify, podcast app. We're there. Tell your friends about it if you enjoy it. We're trying to entertain and educate you. Help us do it. help us help you. And we've got cool stuff in store. Studio is going to look very nice. We told you we'd get back in studio. It's been a long time coming, but we're happy to be back.
And we got a switch camera. Yay!
Yeah, we got a switch camera.
If Stefano didn't realize, but I just like switched like a bunch of times.
We've got cool stuff in store. We're going to pretty up the studio for you, doll up for you, if you will. What else? We've got interesting guests coming in who I don't want to break the news until it's confirmed and we have money in the bank, but so to speak. But we have some very cool guests coming up, so stay tuned and help us help you.
All right, cool. I gotta do my thing, I guess. In this crazy mixed up world, here you go, camera, for you.
Camera Juan.
In this crazy mixed up world where everything is going to absolute complete dog poo-poo.
My favorite part of the podcast is like there should be a betting line out there whether Mike's going to say doo-doo or poo-poo at the end.
Right? And it's a wet-ass P word. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no.
Get a bucket and a mop.
Yeah, a bucket and a mop. But yeah, in this crazy mixed-up world where everything is going really, really badly, the world is burning. Remember, you got family, you got life, and this podcast. Take it easy, everybody.